The origins of the Temple of Metamorphosis. Before the Temple. Long before the Great War between heaven and hell, before the rebellion of Lucifer, and perhaps even before the first light of creation itself, there existed places beyond all mortal understanding. The cosmology of Trench Crusade suggests that hell was never born from Lucifer's fall. Instead, hell is an ancient realm, vast, unknowable, and immeasurably old, a kingdom that may have existed before time itself began. It is not merely a prison for the damned, but a primordial landscape whose deepest regions remain unexplored even by the oldest demons. When Lucifer and the rebel host were cast from heaven, they did not create hell. They merely occupied a fraction of it. Its kingdom spread outward into impossible distances. Mountains older than memory rose beneath skies that had never known stars. Rivers of black fire flowed through caverns that seemed to possess no beginning or end. Entire empires of demons flourished within its reaches, yet even they understood that they ruled only the surface of something infinitely larger. There were regions that no prince of hell dared enter. Ancient maps ended abruptly with blank spaces and warnings scratched by trembling hands. Travelers spoke of stairways descending forever, of caverns where geometry dissolved, and of distant sounds that no living creature could identify. These were places abandoned even by the oldest devils, for something older still was believed to dwell there. Among all the rulers of hell, only one possessed the curiosity, or perhaps the arrogance, to seek what lay beyond. The first expedition. The fallen angel. Andromalius became consumed by a question that none of his brethren dared ask. If hell itself had limits, what lay beyond those limits? His peers dismissed the thought as madness. Hell was already infinite to every practical measure. Why search beyond an eternity? But Andromalius refused to believe that existence simply ended. Gathering a host of loyal followers, fallen angels, scholars of forbidden truths, occult engineers, and veteran demons, he organized what would become the greatest expedition ever undertaken within hell. Their journey lasted ages. They crossed continents abandoned before Lucifer's rebellion. They marched beneath cathedrals carved into mountains whose architects had long since vanished. They passed oceans that reflected no light and forests where every tree appeared to grow downward into darkness. Eventually, they reached a staircase unlike anything previously recorded. It descended into absolute blackness. The steps continued downward for more than 100,000 flights. No one knew who had carved them. No one knew where they led. Those who attempted to count eventually lost their ability to remember numbers. Still they descended. Time ceased to behave normally. Sleep became impossible. Distances stretched and collapsed without warning. Some members of the expedition quietly disappeared from existence, remembered only because others carried journals proving they had once existed at all. After what may have been centuries or moments, they reached the bottom. There they found not another kingdom, not another abyss, only a wall. It stretched beyond sight in every direction, black, smooth, featureless, except for a single fracture, a crack no wider than a finger. The door. The crack should not have existed, nor should the impossible thing hidden behind it. The expedition widened the fracture with bleeding hands and infernal tools until they uncovered what later generations would simply call the door. Yet, door is merely the closest word language possesses. Witnesses described entirely different things. Some claimed it was an enormous doorway whose frame disappeared into infinity. Others insisted it resembled the collapsed corpse of a black star, folded inward upon itself. Some believed it was a wound in reality through which another existence could be glimpsed. Others swore there was nothing visible at all, that only the certainty of an opening remained. Every observer saw something different. Every description contradicted every other. Yet all agreed upon one terrifying truth. Whatever existed beyond the door was older than Lucifer, older than the first demons, older than hell, perhaps older than creation itself. Even the greatest powers of hell could neither command nor comprehend it. The princes who later learned of its existence forbade discussion of it. Some demanded it be sealed forever. Others quietly worshipped it from afar. None dared approach. The whispers. The expedition should have fled. Instead, they listened. No voice emerged from beyond the door. No language echoed through the darkness. There were no words. The whispers arrived as ideas, as impossible concepts. as truths that entered the mind fully formed without passing through thought. Every listener understood something different. Some believed they heard the origin of mathematics. Others experienced memories belonging to civilizations that had never existed. Some perceived entire dimensions unfolding inside a single heartbeat. Others forgot their own names before realizing they had ever possessed one. The door did not reveal forbidden knowledge. It rewrote the minds receiving it. Understanding became transformation. Thought became mutation. Belief became flesh. The explorers' bodies began changing. Bone softened into translucent structures that resembled neither skeleton nor shell. Muscles rearranged themselves into unfamiliar geometries. Eyes multiplied or vanished altogether. Faces retained only vague suggestions of humanity before flowing into new configurations. The transformations were neither random nor complete. They were ongoing. Every moment became another stage of becoming. Their minds suffered the same fate. Memory ceased to follow time. Identity fractured into overlapping selves. Individuals remembered lives they had never lived. Some spoke with voices belonging to future versions of themselves. Others forgot whether they had ever been angels, demons, or something else entirely. Reality itself no longer appeared fixed. Distance became negotiable. Shape became optional. The expedition had crossed a threshold from which there could be no return. As the oldest surviving account records, they were changed, and there will they forever be changing. Birth of the Temple. Those who emerged from the depths no longer resembled the beings who had begun the expedition. Neither angel nor demon, neither living nor dead, neither wholly physical nor entirely spiritual. They carried fragments of the whispers back into hell. Where they walked, lesser beings experienced subtle transformations. Architecture bent into impossible curves. Language slowly shifted. Dreams became contagious. Some recoiled in horror. Others fell to their knees in reverence. The transformed did not preach conquest. They did not promise dominion. They offered something far stranger. Thus, the Temple of Metamorphosis was born. Unlike the legions of hell, its followers do not seek kingdoms, wealth, or military victory. Unlike many other heretical cults, they do not primarily worship Satan. Their devotion belongs to the unknowable presence beyond the door. To them, the universe itself is unfinished. Creation is not complete. It is still unfolding. Humanity is merely one temporary stage in an endless process. Identity is an illusion maintained by fear. The flesh is a cocoon mistaken for a final form. Perfection is impossible because perfection requires change. Every transformation, no matter how disturbing, is considered a sacred revelation. To resist change is the only true sin. To surrender to metamorphosis is the highest form of worship. Every initiate hopes that one day they, too, will hear the whispers from beyond the door. Not because they seek power, but because they believe the door remembers the shape they were always meant to become. The Temple of Metamorphosis in the mortal realm. Unlike the armies of hell, the Temple of Metamorphosis has little interest in conquest. Kingdoms rise and fall. Empires are built only to crumble into dust. Victories won on the battlefield become forgotten names written in ruined chronicles. To the temple, such struggles are temporary distractions. They seek something far older and infinitely more important. They seek transformation. The temple does not invade the mortal world in vast armies. Instead, it spreads like an infection of thought. Its influence begins almost invisibly. A whispered dream, a forgotten prayer, an impossible geometric pattern carved into the corner of an abandoned chapel. A pilgrim who returns from the wilderness no longer speaking quite the same language. A scholar who discovers a manuscript that seems to rewrite itself each time it is read. The temple understands that every soul possesses an innate fear of change. Its purpose is not to destroy that fear. Its purpose is to convince humanity that the fear itself is the prison. Not every follower becomes a monster. Most appear completely human. They continue living among ordinary society. They marry, they work, they pray beside their neighbors. Yet something about them feels subtly wrong. They blink less often. They never seem surprised. Their smiles linger a heartbeat too long. They speak as though remembering conversations that have not yet occurred. Those who spend too much time in their presence often report vivid dreams of impossible architecture and endless stairways descending beneath the earth. Some never awaken from those dreams. Others awaken, changed. Unlike the flesh smiths of hell, who mutilate the body through brutality and infernal craftsmanship, the temple believes transformation should occur naturally. Violence is considered crude, artificial, an interruption of the process. True metamorphosis unfolds from within. Every initiate changes differently. Some slowly develop translucent skin beneath which unfamiliar organs pulse with silent rhythm. Others lose recognizable facial features while somehow remaining capable of expression. Some begin walking with movements that seem impossible for living anatomy. Others cast shadows that do not imitate their bodies. There is no final form. Every transformation is simply another stage. To the temple, completion is death. Becoming is eternal. No one outside the temple knows their ultimate objective. Some theologians believe they seek to widen the door until whatever waits beyond can fully enter reality. Others argue the door is merely symbolic, that humanity itself is the door, and the temple seeks to transform every soul into something capable of perceiving a higher existence. The temple never answers such questions directly. Its members simply smile. Then they ask a question of their own. If a caterpillar could understand the butterfly, would it still fear becoming one? The Temple of Metamorphosis may be one of the strangest forces to emerge from the depths of hell. Its followers do not seek conquest in the traditional sense. They do not dream of thrones, territories, or victory in the Great War. To them, such ambitions belong to creatures that still believe the universe is finished. The temple believes otherwise. They believe humanity is unfinished, that flesh is temporary. That identity is merely a shape we have grown accustomed to wearing. And somewhere, impossibly deep beneath hell, the door remains. Whatever waits beyond it does not command armies. It does not demand sacrifice. It may not even understand such things. It simply whispers. Those who hear that whisper begin to change. At first, perhaps only in thought, then in belief, then in ways that become increasingly difficult to describe. And that may be what makes the temple so disturbing. Its followers do not consider themselves corrupted. They believe they have been shown the truth. Every twisted form is revelation. Every abandoned identity is liberation. Every transformation brings them one step closer to something they believe humanity was always destined to become. Perhaps they are wrong. Perhaps the door conceals nothing more than an ancient horror that existed before heaven, hell, or mankind. But there is another possibility. Perhaps the temple understands something the rest of creation does not. Perhaps the human form really is temporary. Perhaps the universe itself is still changing. And perhaps the thing waiting beyond the door has been waiting for someone to finally understand. So somewhere beneath the battlefields of Trench Crusade, beneath the kingdoms of hell and beyond those 100,000 descending steps, the door remains closed. For now, and from the other side, something is still whispering.